I'm David. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. So, as you can tell, I am in a different environment than I normally am. Lighting's not as good, and hopefully, the audio quality is not too bad, but it's just my headphones. So, I'm in the middle of nowhere on vacation with my family, and I wanted to still do a podcast for you guys. So, hopefully, you listen and enjoy. As you can tell, my dad's not here with me because he's back in Utah. So, we're going to have fun today. Today, we're going to talk about the Iran conflict. Is Trump going to bomb Iran? Or is he not? Um, two shootings, one in Minnesota, one in Utah. Seem a bit fishy. See how that goes. So we'll just kind of go from there. Hopefully you guys enjoy. So let's talk about the Iran conflict first. First off, nothing's happened on the U.S. side. If you didn't know, I'm just gonna tell you right now, the U.S. hasn't done anything. Now that's contrary to what a lot of people have said in the media, online, in social media, because they keep on talking about how either Trump is not doing enough. He should want change. He should be bombing them right now. He should be doing all these things because that's what he should be doing to protect America. Or two, he should be not doing as much as he's doing because he shouldn't be going to a war with Iran because it's not our war. It's Israel's war. They should be taking care of it. And he's a terrible person if he goes to war and all his followers are gonna dislike him and hate him because he's uh, betrayed them by talking about bombing Iran because he hasn't done it at all. Part two, well, little backstory on that. Trump's talked a while about how Iran can't actually have a nuclear weapon, and he doesn't think they should have one. So this isn't a new thing for him. This is something that he's talked about for a while. Um, so it's not shouldn't be surprising that he is telling them they can't have one, and if they're not willing to negotiate and come to the table and have a treaty that says they can't have one, it's not going to work out. So whether or not we can get involved in the conflict, who knows? But that's not going to work out unless they decide not to have one. Part two, he hasn't done anything yet. He is blustered. He has gone out on social media and said things, but he hasn't done anything. Nothing at all. And unlike Dave Smith, who seems to be, I don't know, he's not quite right in the head because he was calling for Trump's impeachment. He's like, I voted for him and now he's betrayed me. He's like, you weren't really a Trump supporter to begin with. You just voted for him because he was the better option of everyone else. And also, you don't seem to know what you're talking about like all the time. He did this debate on Joe Rogan with Douglas Murray about the Gaza Israel conflict. And from my perspective, you don't have to agree. Douglas Murray schooled him, made him look like a fool. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. But Dave Smith seems to be one of those people that, unless you agree with him, you're wrong and an idiot. And you kind of look like an idiot when you do that because you say things that you think are true and then they are proved completely false, and then you look like an idiot because you said something that had no basis in reality. So hopefully he gets his head back on his shoulders straight. But for now, he seems like a complete moron. Um, and it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. That said, Trump hasn't done anything, and I'm super excited about it. He's doing a great job. I trust his judgment on foreign affairs than I have trusted more than I have trusted any other president. Um, last 4 years, he didn't start any more wars. He did take out some people. He took out Soleimani. He bombed the Yemen, I think it was, in his first term, and no wars came of it because he knows what to do, how much pressure to put on, when to show strength, so that he can negotiate peace. And he's done that. He's done that over and over and over again. So I'm more likely to trust Trump than someone like Dave Smith, who's just an idiot. There's Mark Levin and some of these other normal media Republicans who are like, he needs to get in there and change the regime, and they just come off looking like crazy, batshit crazy people. And he's like, he's betrayed his base, the people who elected him. And no, he hasn't. He's not at all betrayed his base. You're an idiot. maybe you should stop talking and acting like an idiot. Trump has not. So I'm happy with him so far. That, and if you haven't seen, didn't watch the press briefing from Caroline Levitt on the 19th, you should go watch that. But she came out and the first thing she said is, Trump gave me this statement to make. And the statement was, based on the facts, it looks like Iran wants to negotiate. So we'll give them 2 weeks to decide what to do. That is like the best answer I've heard. Give them 2 weeks. Great. Wonderful. Please do. So he's given them 2 weeks. Before we jump into the next few stories, we're going to do a little bit side quest or rabbit trail onto the TikTok ban. Trump just signed another executive order to extend it for another 90 days. So they are extend the not ban for another 90 days because they passed a law to ban TikTok and then they didn't ban TikTok, which is I don't completely understand. I don't think you should be because TikTok's not good and it should be removed from the country unless it is divested. And this is a controversial issue, and I've probably talked about it in the past when the original law was passed. But my thoughts are that the CCP is an adversary, and they own it, and they own the algorithm, and they're purposely propping up people who promote things that we don't want promoted to our children, and they are. Like Dylan Mulvaney. The only reason he was popular isn't because people actually like him. There's so many bots on TikTok. The views are fake on TikTok, but they pushed him up in the algorithm so people would see him and make him seem popular. And then Bud Light hired him, and that kind of destroyed their company. They should really sue TikTok about that. But they can't because TikTok is a US based company. And that's the major issue is, at least with a US based company, we can sue them, we can do freedom of information requests, we can kind of see behind the curtain to see what's going on behind it there and get some information on the bad things they're doing. With a CCP owned company, we have absolutely no leverage, and that's why Trump should not have an idea, shouldn't be extending this at all. Should have forced a sell or gotten it off the App Store. And that's the other thing I'll point out is the TikTok ban doesn't actually ban TikTok. It removes TikTok from the App Store, Apple App Store, and the Google Play Store, so that you can't just go to the Google Play or App Store and download it. On Android, guess what? You can still download it. You just go to the website and sideload it. So it's not actually a ban. It just removes it from the App Store, which is not a big thing. It's completely ridiculous. It needs to be banned unless it is divested. But we'll see what happens. But he did extend it for another 90 days. So the next two stories we're going to talk about are the two shootings, one in Minnesota and one in Utah. The first one happened in Minnesota, near the capital. Such a weird story around this. If you haven't looked into it, you should look into it more. But the guy who did the shootings killed Minnesota representative, Democratic representative. He's weird. From my perspective, based on what I've read and seen, is he is one of those people who everything he does is trying to get the spotlight on him so that people can see how great he is and worship him for how great he is. So he did some preaching in the Congo. All his sermons were insane. And then he was appointed by Tim Walz to a governmental position, and his wife was also appointed by Tim Walz to a governmental position, which is completely weird. And then part two of that is the lady he killed was the only Democrat to vote against a bill that allowed illegal immigrants to get Medicaid through the state. It's such a weird just crap going on. In addition to that, in his car there was a stack of No More Kings flyers for the protests that they were doing, and then he had a list of people he was supposedly going after. We don't know, but it is super fishy. It doesn't make any of it doesn't make any sense. And to add to that, he was only charged with second-degree manslaughter. And that doesn't make sense to me because Normally, when you have premeditation, like he got a fake police car. He dressed up as a fake police officer. He went to a specific person's house and shot them. He clearly premeditated the whole thing. Normally, when you have premeditation, you get capital murder or first degree murder or one of the higher um, levels of that crime. Second degree manslaughter or lower, just manslaughter, are normally when it's not premeditated, or there are other things like that. So it's weird that they didn't charge him with first degree or capital murder, but they did second degree manslaughter, which is super weird. And then the state police said, "Oh, hey, we got his his notes, but we're not going to release them. We don't want you to see what his purpose or what he wrote down about his reasons for his manifesto." There you go. We don't want to release his manifesto because we don't want people to see what it was. There's nothing in there at all. It's like, yeah, there's nothing in there that you want us to see, clearly. But it would be nice to see. So we'll have to wait and see on that because the FBI is going to be probably picking that up and looking into it. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm super happy with the FBI currently. If you didn't get a chance to listen to the Joe Rogan interview with Kash Patel, he did a 2.5 hour interview with Joe Rogan. It was great. He explained a lot. Uh, and I think he and Dan Bongino are doing a great job. They have a lot of work ahead of them. And unlike, this is the thing that frustrated Elon with Doge and Trump, and this is why they had a spat. Nothing goes fast in government. You may want it to go really fast, but nothing goes fast in government. And so even though they've only been in office, I think he said it in his interview, 100 days, um, which it's only been 100 days, he's released a ton of information, a ton of information, and he's still got lots to go. And he stated in the interview that he found the hidden room with all the things that the FBI evidence the FBI was trying to hide about different things, and they're slowly combing through it and will be releasing it as they did. So I'm super excited for them to look into this case to see, okay, it looks weird and nothing seems to be right about it. So hopefully someone with some competence will get in there and look into it and get to the bottom of who hired him, what happened, that kind of stuff. My one friend Tiffany, shout out to her. Um, her theory is that Tim Walz hired him, the shooter, to to do the assassinations, and that is a conspiracy theory, but it could be correct. So we'll see what the FBI finds. It'll be interesting to see if they find anything interesting about it. The second shooting we'll talk about, and then we've got some other stories that I've been thinking about that should be fun, is one in Salt Lake City. So on, I don't even remember when the No More Kings protests were, but same day as the other shooting because they were both during the No More Kings protest, which there aren't any more kings in the United. Well, there is Stephen King, so he's still here. So I understand protesting him. I agree we should protest him and he should leave the U.S. That'd be great. Um, Otherwise, there's not any other kings in the U.S. that I'm aware of. So what happened in Utah? They're having their No More Kings protest. One of the organizations affiliated with the protest was the 50501. It's the dumbest thing. They had some peacekeepers at the protest who were armed, and they shot an innocent bystander and killed him. Their reasoning for shooting said innocent bystander and killing them was this guy here in the video. Hopefully you can see that. In this picture here, had a firearm, and he supposedly, per them, had lifted it up and was pointing it at people, and so they shot him. But they didn't shoot him. They shot an innocent bystander. They shot into a crowd. And first off, if you know anything about firearms, one of the rules is you need to know your target and know what's beyond it. It's a very important rule in firearm training safety, so that things like this don't happen. Or even if you're in the in the woods hunting deer, you don't want to focus so much on the deer that you miss that there's people behind it. always make sure you know what's behind your target. And they didn't. Part two, new videos come out because people have cell phones. The guy they arrested for murder, this guy here in the video, who was supposedly raising his rifle and pointed at people, didn't lift it at all. And they started shooting at him and killed an innocent person. And guess what? In Utah, open carry is legal. They don't need a license for it or anything. Just open carry. So he was doing the legal or right thing. And the peacekeepers were the ones who did the illegal thing. And who got arrested? The guy who didn't do anything. Super fishy. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. How is the state police and the 501 organization, are they in cahoots here? Because the people who should be arrested are the ones who murdered someone or killed someone. It wasn't necessarily murder because it was unintentional. Except for, if you know anything about gun safety, that should have never happened. So was it really unintentional? But it was definitely manslaughter. But they are not arrested, and the guy who didn't lift his rifle, didn't do anything wrong, was arrested. Now, I don't like him. It doesn't look like he was the greatest guy. But he didn't seem to be doing anything wrong. So we'll have to see what happens. Hopefully, it would be nice if the FBI got involved. Per Cash Patel, he's going to send a bunch of the FBI agents out to actually go do work in the field instead of sitting in the office in Washington, D.C. So that should be good. Maybe he'll look into that and figure out why the state police are covering for non-profit organization instead of arresting people who shouldn't kill people. Well, we'll have to see what happens there. So another story of the day. Going back to Cash Patel. He just released through, I can't remember the senator. Let me see if I can get an article. Just released evidence that the FBI knew that China was printing ballots. Let me see if it'll load. There we go. The FBI has located documents with alarming details about the 2020 election. It seems that the Chinese may have been printing fake mail-in ballots for the 2020 election. So if you didn't realize, it seems more and more like the 2020 election was rigged. So a bunch of people after this were posting that Trump is the only president who's won 3 elections in a row. We don't have 100% evidence of that, but this does seem to point in that direction. So hopefully he is able to get to the bottom of it and start arresting people. It is summer. I think Dan Bongino and him said arrests should be coming by summer. So we'll have to see about that. Who knows? It might happen. It might not happen. We'll see. Could happen though. And if you didn't notice, more Democrats are trying to visit ICE facilities. And let's see if I can find this video. Let's see here. Who was it? Oh, I can't find it. I can't type today. So there's several Democrats trying to get into ICE facilities, and oh, here it is. Well, we don't need the audio for it, but I think it'd be interesting to see. This is the senator here. Is he still? Why are we run by a bunch of people who are barely alive? It he can barely walk. He can barely walk. Beyond that, why do Democrats care more about illegals, people who not illegal? Sorry, let me rephrase. Criminal aliens, people who broke our laws to come to the United States. Why do they care more about them than U.S. citizens? Hmm, super weird. Also, why are they so old? They're almost all dying. They should really let go of power and let some other people get there. Um, Last story of the day, probably. This is interesting. Um, the DNC is out of money. And this happens to coincide with USAID being defunded. It seems to correlate there, you know. And I've been telling people this ever since USAID was targeted by Trump when he first got into office. My theory was during his last term, he figured out how Democrats were getting money, their funding sources, and he cut them off. Cut them off. And now they have no cash. Not only that, so not only do they not have any cash, they have the worst approval rating, I think, ever. People do not like the Democratic Party. They don't. So the midterm elections are going to be fun. We'll have to see what happens on the. Oops, sorry about that. On the run up to the midterms, because if they don't have any money, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I don't see a case where Democrats win much in the midterms because they don't have any money and they're so disliked. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that not that there's going to be a red wave, but I think the Republicans will pick up some seats, get a little bit more of a majority, and then allow Trump to do a little bit more things. So it should be interesting to watch. Oh, man. No story. Sorry, I keep on getting jumped around here. Um, Trump's going after Jerome Powell again. Oh, Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell is such a political hack. It's terrible. There we go. And I'll have all these links for you guys. Um, Trump calls on Jerome Powell one of the dumbest, most destructive people in government and an American disgrace. I agree. And I don't know why he hasn't fired him yet. I know there's some issues with firing him. You can't do it the traditional way, but come on. He cut interest rates when inflation was still going up and jobs were not going great under Biden to make him look better. And yet he won't cut interest rates for Trump when inflation has stayed steady at 2.5% or something like that. It's hit its marks or it's met expectations every single month. And yet he won't cut rates because he does not like Trump. So Trump should fire him immediately. Get him out of office. I mean, shut down the Fed, but that's a little bit more difficult than just firing Jerome Powell, probably. But yeah, he should get him out of office as soon as possible. Drop interest rates, help the economy ramp back up, and boom. It'll help revitalize the housing market. I mean, there's two things that'll help revitalize the housing market. Get rid of all the illegals who are taking up housing that shouldn't be. Dropping interest rates, which brings more houses on the market, lowers the monthly payment on a house, more people can buy, and causes more houses to be turned and purchased, Right now, there's a bunch of people who are locked into low mortgage rates who don't want to sell because, one, they have a really good mortgage rate, and two, if they swap houses, their payment's going to jump and they actually can't afford the house they currently have if they had to purchase with higher interest rates. So they're stuck in a bad situation. So Jerome Powell needs to cut interest rates. He needs to. And if he doesn't, he needs to get out. I'm surprised he's lasted this long. He's lasted a really long time. So that is all the information I have for today. Thanks for checking in. Like and subscribe, share with your friends. And we'll be back in a couple weeks at our normal time as a live stream. Thanks for tuning in.